Hello and welcome to episode 126 of the Green Bay Outdoors podcast. My name's Kyle.
I'm AJ.
I'm Ryan.
And we are joined by Jared. And right now, this is round 2. You guys didn't see the first one because Ryan forgot to press record for Jared. So if our conversation sounds like we're rushing through the beginning of it, it's because we already lived it once. But don't hold it against us. But Jared, thanks for joining us, man.
Hey, appreciate it, Kyle. AJ, Ryan, good to be chatting with you guys. I always take pleasure in sitting down, whether we're chatting, hunting, fishing, products, whatever it may be. You guys are as good as they come. So appreciate you having me on and chatting through a little bit of onX, a little bit of hunting, and whatever else we might cover here today.
Thanks, brother.
Much appreciated.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, for those of you who don't know what onX is, I'm going to start off by saying what I use it for. So it's a mobile application. You can get it on your iPhone. You can get it on Android. And basically, you use the mapping system to find out where you are in the world or who owns a piece of property you're looking at, and I use it for hunting and fishing. So I use it to find public lands, like where's the public and private boundaries when I'm going trout fishing, when I'm going hunting. The other cool feature about it is you can see who owns a piece of property. So we're going to be filming a vlog coming up for goose hunting where we're just going to straight use onX. It's going to be like an onX commercial when it's all done because basically what we're going to do is drive around, find out where the geese are, find out what fields they're in, and then find out who owns it on onX, go up to them and ask them, if we can have permission to hunt. Most people don't mind you killing geese. A lot of people have problems with deer, but geese, you normally get away with it.
Yeah, it's funny. The people, if it has hair, people tend to care more.
Nice.
But as soon as it has feathers or
Like
scales,
kill those
no one
things.
cares.
Yeah, exactly. And then the other cool thing is not only can you see who owns it, you can see where they live because it doesn't always... Like, if you're up north and you're looking at a piece of property and you click on it, and it's like, oh, the owner actually, their main address is in Clinton Township down south. Well, then you can call them and find out if you can have access that way. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, I love it. You used it recently, too, for something else.
Yeah, when we were house hunting, we were looking at a house on 5 acres, and it tracks you as you walk around. The app tracks you as you walk around, so I was walking the perimeter of the property because I can see the property lines on the app. And just to get a good visual of what the property looked like.
Yeah.
So we didn't buy the house, but at least I know what the property looks like now.
The cool
You had a fun walk.
Yeah.
One of your little games was when you bought your house, you just kept checking to see when onX would update that
yeah,
you were
I
the
did
new
do
owner.
that.
Oh,
That
that's
you were the
funny.
new owner.
Are you in there now?
I'm in there now.
All
Yeah,
right.
I kept checking out. I just wanted my name on the house. It was cool.
But the other thing too is it has an offline feature, which is key. So if let's say you're going out anywhere hunting, you can download maps for the areas and download them to your phone, and then the where you are on the map still works even without internet, but you need the map so you can download it directly to your phone in the app and then see where you are even if you don't have cell service, which is key. But that's kind of the top level rough sketch of how we use it. But for someone who doesn't know what onX is, how do you explain it, Jared?
The very rudimentary level, it's digital plat map, right? And so with the Hunt app, there's 2 options that you can purchase. Well, I guess as of recently 3. So you can buy the premium single state membership if you just live in Michigan or you just live in Florida, $30, and you get all of the data for that state. We just actually introduced a 2-state option where for $45 you can get 2 states if you live in Wisconsin, but you also hunt in Minnesota. That product's then for you. And then our elite membership covers all 50 states. But the cool part of Elite is the value goes way beyond just the property ownership data. You also have access to a pile of pro deals from our most trusted industry partners, as well as a bunch of free education. You get access to some exclusive webinar type content. And so the Elite product certainly has the most value. But to mention a few of my favorite features beyond what these guys mentioned, like the tracker, being able to turn that on when you're tracking a deer you shot or when you're scouting for geese, so you know every single road you drove, and even as importantly, the roads you didn't drive. I use the tracker a ton. As Kyle mentioned, offline, it wouldn't be a viable product without the ability to use it without service, because so often where you're hunting, you don't have service. Another one, we're adding a bunch of aerial imagery options. So our base imagery is anywhere from 1 to 3 years old. As you can imagine, and aerial imagery is wildly expensive to source. And so we've started to get creative and sourcing imagery from individual states that, sometimes they fly it for tax purposes to measure roof square footage and things of that nature. So we've started to try to get creative to source more recent aerial image options for folks. And so we now have recent imagery, which is updated every 2 weeks. It's a lower resolution imagery, but that also has historic look back. So you can see water level change. You can see the snow line. You can see a tornado that went through, things of that nature. We're working on leaf off imagery. We have it for 15 states currently, and trying to source, we're going to certainly try to get it to the point where every whitetail, quote unquote, whitetail state has leaf off imagery. Obviously, not as important if you're in Montana or something like that. But when you're in Michigan or Mississippi, having that leaf off base map just allows you to see a much clearer picture. And then another innovative one that we came out with fairly recently is 3D. But to add to that, the 3D elevation exaggeration. So, if you're in the Midwest or you're in the South where topography, 20 feet is a lot of elevation change, using that elevation exaggeration slider essentially just wildly distorts that elevation change. So it becomes very visual on your map. And as you guys know, if there's a 5-foot elevation change with a little ditch, those deer know that that's there and they are going to use it to their advantage. And so being able to discover those things before you set boots on the ground and when you're at home is just wildly advantageous, even if it's your own property. Like I hunt quite a few pieces of private ground across the country that I've hunted for multiple years, and every single year when I'm looking before I go back, I find some nuanced detail. I was like, oh shit, I've like walked right by that spot on a number of occasions, but I never noticed this, that, or the other thing. So and I mean, as Ryan alluded to, I mean, the options for usage go so far beyond hunting. I actually used it on my house hunt recently.
Nice.
I've talked to tons of contractors that use it, for contacting leads or ensuring you're showing up to the right house. I mean, there's so many folks. Real estate, obviously, as you can imagine, it's used there a ton. We offer a 7-day free trial. So if you haven't used onX Hunt, go to your app store, search it, download it, check it out.
Yeah, I mean, the price is not expensive for what you're getting either.
No.
When it becomes like the most used tool that we have for hunting, like
I was so excited when they announced CarPlay. When you guys said that your CarPlay was coming, it was the best.
So here's one for you. What do you actually do with CarPlay?
So with someone like me, I upland bird hunt. In northern Michigan, you're driving from spot to spot to spot, and if you're doing that, you can rather than pulling your phone out and doing the whole phone and driving deal, you can just quickly glance down at it. A buddy of ours was using an iPad that he had mounted up, but then since then he's been able to revert over to CarPlay. So there are applications for it.
Yeah, and we're sponsored by Ram, but Ram is what we all drove before we were sponsored by Ram, but we're sponsored by Ram. So we have that screen that's like this big. Dude, it's killer. Yeah. So when you're driving around in new spots, it's so nice to be able to do that. The other thing is, too, like if you're on your cell phone in Michigan, you're going to get pulled over if you get caught doing something like that, too. Like if you're playing on your phone, you're going to get pulled over. Granted, not necessarily where we're hunting, but, it's not something you want. So it's to be able to, that's what I have up in my car all the time now. Yeah. So
I'm too broke to have a sweet Dodge Ram with a 25-inch TV screen in the dash. So I personally don't have the luxury of using CarPlay, but when I am in rigs with CarPlay, like my girlfriend has a 2021 truck that has CarPlay, and if I'm going to the grocery store, I turn onX on in CarPlay. I don't know why. Like, I just like to look at it as I'm driving, I guess.
Yeah.
Because like so often I don't really have a real application for it. It just feels nice to have up there.
Dude, I have applications for it all the time. Like you drive past, like the other day I was like, is that where Ryan's ex-girlfriend lives? And I just clicked on the thing and saw it wasn't. like stuff like that. Like while you're driving, like, dude, I find myself obsessive. So where we live in Michigan, we're in a town called Fenton, and we call it the center of the world because everyone seems to know about it. We love this place. You've got your main downtown area where you've got all your cool classic restaurants and bookstores and the Fenton Hotel restaurant and the Fenton Fire Hall restaurant and, like all these cool things. There's a waterfall downtown. There's a river that goes through, and they do concerts in the park. And then, like, the other side of Fenton, you've got your Walmarts and all the other stuff that you need. Everything besides that is farmland or lakes. We have like 30 lakes inside of 15 miles or something like that. So you're always like, either as soon as you're out of town, you're like looking at geese, looking at deer, looking at turkeys, looking at this, looking at lakes, whatever. Oh, there's ducks over there. Can we hunt that? Is there blah, 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 blah. Like, he found a little pond that was off a stretch of state land that is like in a neighborhood, and we're like mapping out like, well, you'd be 450 feet away from that. And then, dude, it comes up all the time. I can't not have it. And then like when we're going, especially when we're on road trips, and it's funny because everywhere we go, we're in a different Ram, but they're all the exact same truck, so we feel like we're always in our truck, but we're not in our truck. And everywhere we go, like, we'll be doing road trips. We were just in New Mexico, and we're looking like, oh, there's a bunch of pronghorn there. Is that public? Is that state? Is that this? Is that, can we use our license? Dude, we use it all the time in CarPlay.
Yeah.
All the time.
I just laugh at the amount of people that I know that use it when they are not hunting, even though they're just like driving around looking at, Ryan's ex-girlfriend's house, or, Bob down
Chick
the
was
street,
crazy,
who they always see walking his golden retriever.
Right.
I think it's awesome how widely it's utilized, but I also find it hilarious how many people use it for, seemingly no purpose while driving around in February. They're still pulling up onX CarPlay. It's just one of those features that's super sticky, and once you start using it, it's like hard not to have it on the LCD screen.
100%. You're always kind of hunting. I will tell you too, to your point too, it's not that we're not broke, it's that we get that truck for free.
Oh, I know 100% where that truck comes from.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, but dang, is it sweet. If I was gonna buy a truck though, it really would be that.
Here's a hot tip for you on the pond that you found. So a tool that nobody really knows about for that exact use case, if you drop a waypoint on that pond, tap that waypoint, there's a range radius tool that you can add to any waypoint. So if you got to be 200 yards from a dwelling, you can tap that range radius, set it to 200 yards, and it'll show you a radius around your waypoint of like 200 yards exactly in any direction. Had to drop that little knowledge bit in there.
No, that's good. Yeah, I like that. Another thing too, this is a little bit off topic and not one of the things we said we were going to talk about, is I kind of explained the guys your life story is a bit of winning the lottery, where you got right out of college and then you signed up with onX right away when they were tiny, and then you just grew with it. Like, you hit the freaking jackpot for careers, man.
Yeah, this is the only, quote unquote real job I've ever known. After college, as you said, I started in customer support. So, like when I came out here, I had used onX like religiously my last couple of years at college I guess that would have been 2016, 2017. And then I just saw a job posting. I wanted to move west. It was in Missoula, an area, there's 3 rivers running through town, like resident elk tags. I was like, yep, that should do.
Yeah.
So,
I love resident elk tags and trout.
Yes, me too. And so the first 9 months, I was doing the customer service thing, which, looking back on it, like, it wasn't necessarily my dream job to be on the phone all day helping people download apps and learn about it, but it's helped me a ton in my marketing role to understand our customer to the nth degree. In fact, like every fall I still sit on a number of customer support calls just to make sure that I'm still on track and haven't lost touch with who our consumers are, the problems they're facing, and that type of thing. But yeah, I tell you what, if you don't know what to do for college, as most young kids don't, just go someplace and get resident deer tags or something.
Where were you from originally?
I was from Wisconsin, but I have an aunt and uncle that they own a farm in Iowa that they're wildly gracious in letting me hunt, and so I had no idea what I wanted to do at the age of 17, 18, whatever it was, and I just was like, well, I could get Iowa deer tags every year for $30 for 4 years. That sounds pretty good. So I went to school in Ames, Iowa, and deer hunted a lot.
That's awesome.
That is pretty cool. Yeah, it's one of those things too. Like, the people that are happiest in their careers, like us, like you, like, it would have been tough to, like, as a kid, be like, here's what I'll do. You know what I mean? Like, you kind of got to let God mess with it a little bit and put you in the right situation.
Well, most people as a kid are like, I want to be a pro athlete. I
Yeah.
want to be I was like, I'm going to be a professional hunter.
Yeah.
Yeah. Job art. There's like freaking maybe 50,000 people that get to hold that job,
Yeah. You're like, hey, you'll have enough meat, guy, but I don't know about money. Out of I just like that story is like how you ended up starting there, working your way up through the company, and now you're running the marketing and stuff like that. And you've been super professional and easy to get hold of, and one of our favorite partners for sure. Moving on to planning hunts, like you were planning hunts in Iowa. For planning hunts, I went to the website and you look at onX, and there's ways to do research and also plan your future hunts right now. Talk to us about that so people can do that, because that's something I run into a lot when I talk to people is like issues they have. They're like, hey man, I'd like to go do that hunt, or I wish I could go do a hunt like that, or where do you suggest we go for elk, or where should I go for moose? And
we got it yesterday with the guy dropping off wanting to know.
yeah, I mean the guy that dropped off our gun safe, which is sitting in the yard because we didn't know 800 pounds is that heavy. dude, it is like, you got to come hang out with us one day. It literally is just like us hanging out every day. But they brought a safe to us that we got from Bass Pro, and we were like pumped about it, and they dropped it off, and it turns out 800 pounds is pretty damn heavy. And now we don't even know if our steps in our basement can handle it. So we had to hire some guy that has some hydraulic thing. So we didn't have any way to cover it. It's snowing here, so we had to go buy a tarp and wrap it. So it's just sitting in our
He
yard.
bought a tarp that was 80 feet by 90 feet.
He said, get a big tarp. 30 by 20 is a little too big, but we'll use it for other stuff. We can cut it.
I think the hardest part of it all is getting started, right? Like so many, whether you go to Colorado's Fish and Game site or Idaho's or Arkansas's, like they all have a level of difficulty to them because they're, to be frank, government ran organizations. And so like navigating and understanding all of the different preference points or the stamps you need, it's really muddy if it's not something that you've done before. And so often people are left like having a lack of confidence that they bought the right thing.
100%.
And so, we saw that years ago. And so with our elite membership, you have access to Hunt and Fool, who is basically a consultation service that is there to help you understand, for your budget, for your interests, here's the hunts that, we feel would be a good fit for you. They have like requirements of all their employees that they have to spend like 45 days in the field each fall. They have to hunt like 3 states in 3 different species. So like when you contact somebody at Hunt and Fool, you're not talking to some person on the that's never set foot in the woods. You're talking to somebody that's like a killer. And so they do a really good job at helping you understand the lay of the land. You get their e-magazine free, which basically their magazine covers all of the primary Western states, which the Western states are really the hard ones to figure out. Like if you want to go deer hunting in Alabama, you pretty much pay your $350 for the 7-day all game license and you go have at it. Or, Wisconsin or Michigan, like it's not hard to get a white-tailed deer tag or a turkey tag. Largely speaking, it's the elk tags, the mule deer tags, the antelope tags, mountain goat. That's the stuff that's really challenging. And so Hunt and Fool was really like our first foray into helping people break that information down, digest it, and figure out what's possible for them. So highly, highly recommend checking out our elite membership, or if you're already an elite member, go check out the Hunt and Fool benefit. That's free as an elite member. There's no additional cost. And so really take advantage of that resource. And then a couple of years ago, we acquired a service called TopRut. And TopRut basically specialized in draw odds data. And so getting an understanding of your budget and what you want to hunt and all that good jazz and where you want to go as a state generality is the first step. But the second step, as you guys now know, in today's day and age, drawing a tag is not an easy task. Gone the days of buying an over-the-counter elk tag. Pretty much like Colorado still has that opportunity, but outside of that, there really is no true over-the-counter elk tag available. And so we distilled the top rut draw odds into our own tool, which actually just launched today, January 23rd, as we're recording this conversation, called Hunt Research Tools. So if you go to the onxmaps.com website and then click on the Hunt app, you'll actually see Hunt Research Tools as kind of the main pancake banner there. And what that's doing is it basically allows you to filter what you're interested in. Okay, I'm interested in hunting elk in Colorado. And then, let's say you have 0 points, you input that, and it kind of lays out, okay, at 0 points, like your really only option is over the counter tags. Well, if you input, okay, I have 3 points, futuristically looking 3 years from now after you buy points with the help of Hunt and Fool, understanding the process, all that good jazz, then it'll tell you, okay, there's like 7 GMUs where your draw odds with 3 points for first rifle season is 65%. Well, if you want to do third rifle season, it goes up to 80% because now you're in November. It's going to be snowy. It's going to be miserable. Less people are interested. So that tool really just allows you to understand the scope of what you need to do in order to work backwards from your hunt to figure out what you need to do in subsequent years before you actually get to go on that hunt, because that's the reality. If you want to hunt the West, if you want to hunt mule deer, elk, antelope, you can certainly get tags a little bit more often in Wyoming in particular. But most of those species, I mean, it's going to take a couple years of point collection and planning to make it happen. So if you want to do it, you better start today.
Yeah, I think that's so key because that's such a tool for people to be able to start with because, like I said, the guy yesterday was like, where should I go if I ever wanted to get a moose tag? And going through that process and like...
Tell that guy it's Alaska.
Yeah.
Because if you want a moose tag in the lower 48, good luck.
Right. Good luck is
Very
right.
true. You must be very lucky.
We scored. I know, dude. It's so funny. And people think we got like preferential treatment. But freaking Jeffrey pulled a moose tag his first time in the state of Maine in this area. They pulled 2 non-residents out of thousands.
Somebody's got to win, right?
Yeah, and we won it. And everyone's like, that's crap. It's because they have a show and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, it is not. It's not that. That kid, he's been like that our whole life, though. He'll win the most random shit.
Really?
Yeah, oh yeah. He's always been the winner
There's
of
always
stuff.
that kid. There was a girl in our grade who was like that, won everything for no reason. It made me so mad.
Always winning the free books at the book
And
fair.
I think what you just mentioned, Kyle, is a very important caveat that with a little bit more research can go a long way. Like Maine moose is an absolute lottery.
Yeah.
Like, if your dad has been applying for a moose tag for 30 years and I apply for the first time this year, me and him have the same odds.
Right.
And so I would say like that is maybe the most important thing to research and understand is like which states are based on, bonus or preference points. Some states do both, which those in and of themselves are like an entire podcast episode to understand what those things mean.
We have that
But
in
then there are
Michigan
other
with
states-
Bear. Yeah.
Yeah, but then there's other states where, you put your name in the hat and it is equal odds for everybody. And so like point creep, which essentially can be described as because of us right here and the hundreds, thousands of other people also raising awareness of like, hey, these hunts are possible. You just have to do them. Well, that's obviously incited thousands, tens of thousands of more people to apply for the same amount of tags that were there 10 years ago.
As long as they're using onX, I'm fine with it, though. No,
So, like, it's getting incrementally more difficult to get enough preference points, bonus points to draw a tag in a reasonable period of time. So, like, just figuring out which states have a true lottery system, like Maine, Idaho, Alaska. There's a couple others, but I'm going to be wrong if I start mentioning more states.
Yeah.
Those are the ones I'm super confident in. But like finding which ones have a lottery system where it's like, I don't have any points, but I still want to try to shoot a moose or a goat or something in my lifetime. I mean, that's super important information to go in with because, if you just start buying points in Wyoming, you probably would have been better off playing the lottery in Idaho at this point in time.
Right. It's interesting you say that, too, and I want to dive into that a little bit deeper because some information that just came out, I want to say it's every zone in Michigan, for the first time, had less deer harvested than the year before. Every single zone was down. I could be wrong. Maybe it wasn't every zone, but I looked at the map, and I believe it was completely all the same color. So you're getting so many less deer harvested, and all the news reports, and I was interviewed by CBS on this exact topic, they're claiming, and the DNR is claiming, it's because of lack of hunters' involvement. So hunter participation is going down. And it's so interesting because we see that everywhere right now, is that we see that the hunting participation is going down. And one of our big calling cards that we talk about is 60% of hunting and fishing licenses are sold to white males over the age of 55 in our state, and that's a pretty good representation in other states as well. Well, what happens in 10 to 15 years? Because the sale of hunting and fishing licenses is what pays for our species sustainability efforts. It's what pays for our anti-poaching efforts, our fish stocking efforts, our forests. It's what paid for our national parks, all these different things, right? So we see hunter numbers going down. But yet, if you talk to, and it's a perfect thing, I know you guys work with Steve Rinella, you look at Steve Rinella versus his brother's opinions are widely different, right? So they hate each other, apparently. But their opinions are different. You got one guy saying, you know, I have all these new people hunting my areas. And then you got the other guy saying, we need hunter participation. And look, in 10 to 12 years from now, when that huge drop-off takes place, what are we in for? And his brother's a hypocrite anyways, because he's been on Steve Rinella's TV show 10 times, and now he wants to bitch. But besides the point. So then you look at it, and it's like, okay, so you've got all these people with participation saying it's going down. The DNR is saying that. License sales are saying that. And it's going to get really bad in 10 years. But then if you go to a managed waterfowl area in Michigan, and I go to Harson's Island, and they have 40 good zones, but 100 zones total, and there's 150 parties there. When I used to go when I was a kid, there was only 70 parties. Wait a second, what's going on? And then you talk about like what you just said. You know, we didn't even say that we were going to talk about this, but you led in by saying like now if you want to get in a lottery, it's hard. There's still the same amount of tags as there were 10 years ago, but it's so much harder to get it, and it's because of the raised awareness. So my question is, and this is my hypothesis, and I could be wrong, because both it seems like can't be right? Well, you can't have less hunters, but then there's more hunters. You can't have both. Here's my hypothesis, is that the hunters that are involved now are more involved. Meaning like...
You're seeing them more often in the field.
I mean, my take on that is like, if you look 10 years ago, this is funny. I was just talking to my dad and uncle about this yesterday because Montana just implemented a proposed new change to our upland season based on resident feedback, which kudos to Montana for hearing resident feedback. I appreciate that as a resident. And based on resident feedback, they proposed that non-residents cannot upland bird hunt the first 15 days of season. September 1 through 15, reserved for residents only, because there was so much non-resident pressure in those first 15 days of season that, you know, residents were up in arms. Like, there's a bunch of blue platers from Minnesota and North Dakota, and everybody's coming over here to get an early start. And so, just as you said, there's a lot. I mean,
what are your thoughts on that? What were your thoughts on that 15-day thing?
As a resident, I put a comment in and said, thank you for standing up for the people that put the most money in your pockets and that live here and pay taxes here. Like, I appreciated that. I don't really care about upland bird hunting. I don't have an upland dog at this point. Maybe like when I'm 60.
How's your lab doing? How's your lab doing?
He's good, man. That's a whole different rat hole. That would be 10 minutes crying about my dog's elbow dysplasia.
Bad time.
But so I appreciated it, and my feedback was I'll be waiting for the same regulations for elk and deer hunters. Because I mean, you go out on the opening weekends of rifle season in Montana, and I mean, I could be fooled that every single person that lives in this damn state is hunting. It is insane how hard it is to find a trailhead or a parking spot on public land that doesn't have multiple trucks. And so
That's
I 100%
terrifying.
agree with your hypothesis. Like, hunter numbers might be dwindling slightly. I think in 10 years, when the baby boomers fall off and, you know, really age out of hunting, we might see something more detrimental as far as number drop off. But I think those that are still hunting because of tools like onX and shows like, the Greenway Outdoors, it's incited more people to be like, oh man, why have I never hunted the state over? Or why have I never gone west and experienced an elk hunt? And so I think just the availability of information that's easily discoverable has absolutely led to the people that are participating in hunting are hunting more days than ever. They're hunting more species than ever, and they're hunting, more states than ever. And it's very clear on the number of applicants in Western states. I mean, you look at states like Mississippi, as a non-resident, you can't even go hunt a turkey on public land without drawing a tag. Kansas just implemented a quota on their turkey tags, and it's like a draw now. I mean, even Nebraska, which like for my whole life, Nebraska has been begging people to come turkey hunt. Like they use their like Outdoors Nebraska or whatever their commission is called.
Ours is Pure Michigan.
Every single year for as long as I can remember is like, we have turkey opportunity. It opens in March for archery. Come hunt birds. You can buy 3 tags. And now they have a quota on turkey tags because too many people went there hunting. And I think like COVID really incited that, which I'm guessing you guys can agree with that. In that 2020 year, the amount of people hunting everything was nuts.
Yeah.
Doesn't Alaska have the early sockeye run before non-resident?
It's something with natives.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
it is resident. I think there's something with natives, something with residents, which are different.
Okay.
And then,
Non.
yeah,
Okay.
I don't quote me on that, but there's something
There
to
was
that.
something that was
There was
said.
and the other thing was dip netting.
Yeah.
Like the Native Americans were able to, the Eskimo, not Eskimo, can you say it? I don't know.
I don't think
It's
so.
not-
Okay, I don't know.
I
The Native Americans were able to dip net, and
Yep.
either before or that's something like a tactic we can't even use that they can use.
The Greenway Outdoors is brought to you by Ram Trucks, built to serve. Bass Pro Shops and Cabela's, your adventure starts here. Savage Arms, better comes standard. Nosler Ammunition, world's finest bullets, ammunition, and brass. Boss Shot Shells, superior made and American made. Carlson's Choke Tubes, the only choke tube we've ever purchased. onX Hunt, know where you stand.
If you want to be here, it all starts here. At Bass Pro Shops and Cabela's, we have the widest selection of the quality brands you love to get you outdoors. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out, our friendly, knowledgeable outfitters will help you find the right products for your next trip. Shop with confidence with our low price guarantee. Plus, club members save even more on great gear with exclusive member pricing. Bass Pro Shops and Cabela's, voted America's best out.
There's a ram. Legends aren't born, they're created. Introducing Impulse from Savage, the all-new American-made straight-pull bolt-action rifle. Unmatched innovation, fast reloads, maximized efficiency, repeatable accuracy. Welcome to American Straight Pull. Only from Savage.
Going back to like this theory of like hunters being in the field more often now, but there being less hunters. I wonder if it's like goes deeper than that, where it's like a deeper psychological thing. I wish Jordan Peterson was here, where it's like,
Me too. Yeah, that'd be sick.
If you-
no offense, you're a good guest too, but Jordan Peterson would be badass to have everybody here.
Yeah, you guys get way more listens.
what if it's like something like the type of person that hunts is seeking adventure. We're seeing people kind of move out of like this corporate America mindset where it's like, I need my money, I need to work, I
Right.
need to grind at all times. And if I have money, I'm buying stuff. Whereas people are now moving into this thing where it's like, well, I'd rather spend my money on experience. So they're not buying a bigger house, they're going and doing things. So I wonder if that's like an element of that.
It really could be.
I think 100%. And like social really incites that, right? Like you see Kyle posting about some bison hunt he was on Instagram, and you're like, holy shit, that dude's like 30. How is he doing that? Like, if he's doing that, I can do that, and I go figure it out. I
Right.
mean, just the amount of information that is fingertippy because of onX, because of social media, because of, whatever it may be, doing this stuff is so easy compared to trying to do it 20 years ago.
The one good thing about it, though, is if people are more passionate about it, they're more defensive about it, because there's really no way to look at it where it's not, those numbers aren't going to dwindle, because they're already dwindling, right? So you look at, we were talking about COVID, but you saw where the numbers went up, and now you're seeing them go back down because COVID kind of settled everything out. I even think, to jump back, that the deer numbers, the deer harvest numbers being so low this year actually plays into our hypothesis. And here's why. Because the people that go up and hunt for 3 or 4 days a year, that buy a majority of our hunting licenses in Michigan. So the way Michigan's broken up is you've got like, everybody has like 10, 20, 40, or 80 private acres that they go up and hunt up north, or they hunt state land. But for the most part, everyone has like 10 or 20 acres that's theirs. They go up for 4 or 5 days a year, and they do everything they can to make that piece of property as attractive to deer as possible. They go up for 4 or 5 days. And as the numbers dwindle, there's less people that do that. It's like the deer hunters are like the core of the people that only hunt 4 or 5 days a year.
Yeah.
For us in Michigan. And their numbers are lower. So it plays into the fact that less deer were harvested because those numbers are lower. In addition to that, we have a bait ban in effect in Michigan right now that may also be messing with that. It's an absolutely insane law that was passed. They said they did it because of chronic wasting disease. So keep in mind there's millions of apple trees in Michigan. So the idea that moving some apples from under a tree a little bit closer to your deer stand creates chronic wasting disease is an irresponsible, stupid way to think. In addition to that, it's a prion that lives in the ground. You're also having to assume that deer aren't social animals, which is insane, meaning they're not licking each other, and they're not touching each other, and they're not going to licking branches, all those different things. You're saying all of that doesn't happen, and that by putting bait out, you're causing deer to interact where otherwise they wouldn't, spreading chronic wasting disease, which isn't even really a proven thing here in Michigan. Except there's so many holes in that, it's insane.
Yeah.
And the biggest problem with it is it's causing us to harvest less deer. The problem with us harvesting less deer is that is spreading chronic wasting disease, or would spread chronic wasting disease more because of overpopulation. So now they're complaining about overpopulation while there's like a hole in the argument that no one's talking about. All the news stories are covering, like I said, CBS interviewed me, but they don't want to talk about the bait ban causing it. So we live in a pretty liberal state right now. I didn't know we were because we elected Trump the first time, but now apparently we're liberal, and we love our governor who was literally a terrorist to us during COVID. But so this woman,
It's because she's hot.
she is a little bit hot. So that'll get you. We'll go to South Dakota. She's hot too. But anyhow, you go through it and you start looking at that bill. It goes all the way up through because the hunters freaked out about it. The DNR took our side and proposed it to be eliminated. And our governor, who's hot, has never hunted a day in her life, vetoed it to keep it in place. So it's like that law is causing it. Then you have these hunters that do go up for 4 or 5 days a year, and they're like, well, now we've got antler point restrictions in some areas, which you could make a case for in this state because that's, our doe to buck ratio is like anywhere from 25 to 1 to 50 to 1. So we're kind of idiots when it comes to deer in general. Like, we really need to earn a buck program or something like that. Like, we need to harvest doe. And that was actually caused by my dad's generation, my grandfather's generation. We had no deer left, so they were like, don't shoot does. So then they taught their kids, don't shoot does. So my dad thinks, don't shoot does, and they're teaching us don't shoot does. So it took me, like, in my hunt camp to be like, yo, we got to shoot some does. You know what I mean? So everyone's shooting 4 corns every year, and we just wiped out our buck population, and no one wants to shoot does, and now you can buy a doe tag easy in Michigan. Long story short, you've got antler point restrictions, and you've got a bait ban. making it so hard for a hunter to succeed who still thinks he shouldn't shoot a doe. That's what's killing the numbers. And then you're losing participation from those part-timers because they're not getting deer because they're either not seeing what they can harvest or they're losing interest because of all these new laws. And in Michigan, you jump on your side-by-side and your bow case isn't zipped up all the way and you're in handcuffs. I mean, the laws we have are asinine. We don't have a dove season.
And then you got to be scared you're going to end up on TV because the Michigan
they've
DNR has the TV show.
Yeah, that one show, the Wardens or whatever it is. It's on like one of those crappy channels.
Hey, that's a great show.
Yeah, yeah. So it's like your bow case isn't zipped up all the way, so you're getting jumped by the police for it. I mean, it's like the laws here are so insane that it's making it harder for people to participate. So I think the deer numbers being down is because of the bait ban, is because of the antler point restrictions, because of misinformation about shooting does, because of people scared to eat meat that has chronic wasting disease, even though that's not a thing. There's so many problems with it that it's like dwindling the numbers, but yet the people that are hunting are like me and you who care a lot, so we're like overpopulating the lottery system, and we're going to have this giant dump-off in about 10 years, and all we're going to be left with is this. We're going to be like the blue-haired girl. We're going to be the loudest, smallest group is what it's going to be. And what we need to do is like get people involved to a certain level. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like at least deer hunt once a year. Buy a license, please. Like that's what we need. Or we have to figure out how to make what we do as hunters in a smaller group more effective. I don't really know what the answer is, but that's like the problem.
Yeah, it's kind of like you don't know what you're going to do until you're in the situation. Like until you're faced with the issue, how do you respond?
Right. But I think the other thing is, though, like, I want that for people. Like, when I meet people, I like to think I'm a good person. Like, when I meet people, I want good for people, right? You meet someone, it's like, they're talking about wanting to go duck hunting for the first time. I'm like, I want to hold their hand and take them. We just did a squirrel hunt this weekend for SCI, and there was a bunch of first-time squirrel hunters there, and it was awesome, like, to see so many people getting out for their very first hunt. It was like -2 degrees. We didn't even see a squirrel, but it was like the worst. But these other
First and last hunt for those folks.
Yeah. Well, some of the groups got like one of the cool things too is like we donated a gun, and this one group, the female group, it was like they had just learned to hunt, and they were being mentored, and the guide that took them out had a dog, and they actually ended up getting like 4 or 5 squirrels. So they ended up winning the women's division, and now they're hooked. But yeah, it's a bit of a rant, but I think it's just important that like we still advocate to bring new people into the sport, and I think the diversifying of species is good too, because like the alligator episode we just did on history, we went out and bought an over-the-counter tag for over the owner. Yeah, like we got a tag because we met somebody that could get a tag for alligator, and that's like something you can do too. Is like if somebody really wants to do an alligator hunt, you can figure it out.
Yeah, definitely.
You want to go crabbing, you can figure it out. You want to go, I mean, there's just so much to do. That's what's great about the United States. It's the only country where poor people get to do it too, which is awesome.
100%. And I think, you hit on something here in that last sentence. If you want to do it, and the field to fork movement has obviously been super keyed in on over the last, X number of years.
Great point.
But like hunting is not easy. It is not cheap. It is not comfortable generally.
Lord knows.
And it is not as inclusive, maybe is not the right word, but to some extent I think it's the right word.
Welcoming?
As it used to be. Yeah, welcoming. Because like I'm not going to go share a deer spot with people I like, you guys, or people I don't like.
Right.
I ain't sharing those spots. Now, a squirrel hunt? Yeah, I'll go walk around in the squirrel woods or go on a duck hunt with somebody. But if you don't know somebody to get you introduced, the learning curve is insanely steep. I mean, like, can you imagine if you know nothing, you're 30 years old right now, and you're like, I want to go shoot a deer next year. Like, the odds of you being successful in your first couple seasons is extremely low.
Sure.
Not to mention you're going to be cold, you're going to be spending money, maybe you don't have a rifle. And so I think the barriers to entry are, a lot larger today than they used to be because of the generational fall off and so many people being raised in families where it was a grandpa or an uncle or a dad or a mom or whoever it was that took you out. Like if you don't have that network, it's a hard thing to realize that you want to do.
I think that's why I have that love for people that want to try it, because to be honest with you, I've been there. My dad got me into deer hunting, and my dad got me into bluegill fishing / ice fishing. That's what my dad knew how to do well. That's what he took me to do, and that was the experience. He never duck hunted. He never upland hunted. He never did any of that other stuff. He was the guy that hunts 5 to 6 days a year because that's what he could get off from work, right? So when Jeffrey and I wanted to get our first duck boat, we saved up our allowances because he lived across the street from me since we were 5, and we pooled our money to get our first duck boat, pooled our money to get our first shitty motor, and Jeff got ripped off by the guy because he sprayed carb cleaner or the igniter stuff into it and got it to start for him, but he didn't know. He's like, yeah, he sprayed something on it, and then it started. I'm like, oh, no. So, it's like, but even just getting the motor and getting the equipment, then, like, we got out there our first time to go to a managed waterfowl area. This is actually a good story for you. You'll like this. First time we went out to a managed waterfowl area, I think I've told this before. We didn't know anything. We went to Harson's Island, right? And we walk in, and our plan was there's like 80 groups. Our plan was to, like, see close to where other people were picking, and then we'd pick in an area that seemed like it was near where people wanted to be, right? So they call our number. We're drawn first. And, like, I'm like, we're screwed. I don't know a damn thing. And not only that, we're going to walk up and make idiots of ourselves because we're going to pick a bad zone in front of all these people, right? So we go up to the thing. I'll never forget this. I feel a tap on my shoulder, and it's like an older guy. He's probably in his 60s, 70s. And he goes, pick zone 26. And I was like, okay. He's like, you got a boat? I was like, yeah. He goes, pick zone 26. And I remember thinking, and Jeffrey kind of whispers to me, he goes, he heard that we don't know what we're doing. You think he's messing with us, or you think he's helping us? I said, well, even if that was 50-50, that's still better than me picking off of 120 part. You know what I mean? Like, even if he's messing with me.
Yeah.
So we picked zone 26, and I remember walking up, and John Darlin was the guy then. He was the managed waterfowl guy then, and he's like, good pick. And I was like, okay, cool. So then we go out, and to this day, at the time, I was still wondering if the guy was messing with us or helping us. Even the guy at the counter, I trust no one. This is cutthroat. Yeah. So we get out there, and we go, and it's like becomes abundantly clear quick, even though we suck at hunting because we're 16 years old and don't have a damn clue what we're doing. This is where you want to be. Like, there's ducks everywhere. You know what I mean? I'm like, geez, we ended up only getting 2. If we could go there now, I would have banged out a limit in like 5 minutes. But, it's just we suck so bad. Like, I'm trying to shoot. Like, I knew how to rifle shoot, but I had never even shot a clay before. So we're shooting behind everything, and, like, we don't know what we're doing. But, like, it was our first experience. So I've come from that. Like, I came from that to where we are now. Is like I've been down the road of learning from scratch and having people mess with you, having people be nice to you. I've seen everywhere in between. I decided from that day I was always going to be the old guy that tapped people on the shoulder and be like, do this,
Which is seemingly there's not many hunters out there like that.
No. The joke is I made a career out of being that old guy. Like, I committed to that. Yeah. I'm tapping people on the shoulder every day on our show. But, yeah, I just always remember that story as, like, touched my heart a little bit. That's like, I wish I could go back and be like, I don't know what kind of level of impact he really had on me. Because I think about that all the time. He
might be dead now.
He's probably dead.
That's crazy.
I mean, that was 15 years ago.
God rest his soul.
Yeah. He's not doing well at this age. I mean, he was old then. No. He was old enough that, like, he was passing on that information because he was about done with it.
Oh, so he's about to die.
Isn't that interesting, though? Like, a 3-second interaction had the ability to some extent, change the course of your life. We have that opportunity, and you are making the most of it. And I just made an ass of myself because I'm not making the most of it.
No.
I think it's different. And
I think deer spots are different.
I mean, there are some things like what you give up your deer spot, and then now you don't get to do it. Okay,
well, at the end of the day, that guy wasn't going to get first pick that day no matter what.
Yeah.
It's also got to be part of the journey. It's like, your spots because of the experience and whatnot. So it's like you had to start somewhere. and eventually you knew what you knew.
I
But
re-
if you were just given spots from the beginning, who knows how the trajectory would have gone.
Yeah, if you go out and slaughter ducks. I remember we got 2, but I got a green head that day. And actually, my grandma had that picture. There's a framed picture. It was like a shitty picture, too, because, like, the cell phone's blue then. I actually think we took a little disposable out. And, but my grandma has a picture. She's dead now, but it was up in her house of me holding the duck. It was a green head, and I'll never forget that first duck, man. And then, like, we were cleaning it. We breasted it out, and I ate it that night, even though now I would have aged it and done all these different things. And I'm like, it's not great, but I can eat it. Let's go tomorrow, kind of thing. And, but I remember, too, is, like, learning those different spots and, like, knowing which spots were good. And then, like, overhearing a conversation one morning, we were at the managed waterfowl thing, because that year we went, like, 15 times. And I overheard a conversation like, oh, yeah, it's a west wind today, so you're not going to want to be over there. And I was like,
West?
freaking wind? Now I got to know what west is and wind on top of it? Like, damn, there's always something else.
I feel like a good way to represent kind of what we're saying, is like taking it to like the deer stand is like, I won't give up my spot, but I'd be perfectly willing to help you through that.
Make your spot.
Yeah. Where do you think we should go? I'll help you find a spot, but I'm not giving you mine.
Yeah, it's yours. Deer spots are different, too, though, because it's like your thing.
Yeah.
Like, you go there. That's like your little – it's almost like a home.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, you know
can't-
everything around
You
the
can't live
area.
in my house, but I'll help you find an apartment.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So just because it seems like interacting with so many people on the road, we call it the 28 gauge, or there's this common theme. It's probably 20% of the people we run into where they're like, we don't know everything about everything, so we ask a question, and then they're like, you idiot, I'm not helping you. Okay. I guess I won't ask questions then.
I will tell you what, too. There is something with hunting, and I think it's God, but even if you don't believe in God, there is something to hunting where there is a built-in karma. I promise you it exists, because, like, stupid things I did when I was a kid, like Jeff and I, when we were figuring things out, I saw direct correlation to either success later, how we got bit for it, so on and so forth. And I have found, like, even your dad, he was, like, shocked one time. I sent him pictures of these trout, and he goes, I'm up there. What river were you on? And what stretch? And I sent him an onX point. And he was like, geez. And he said something like, you don't do that, or something like that. Like, he's like, I feel guilty even going there now. Something like I gave him too much information.
Yeah.
But there is something to it, though, that I have found that if you're just like, give it all, you get it all.
Yeah.
I truly believe that. And if you do something stupid or make a mistake or this or that, there is direct consequences to it. I really believe that. I will say this one. Here's what I think this year.
They should make a movie about it. They'll color all the people blue. Everything's connected.
Yeah.
Maybe AWA, we can call it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Avatar's real and you know it. It's about the future. No, I'm just kidding. Anyhow, I was going to go down the whole thing, but I don't even know that I'm going to do it. I don't care. So I accidentally, last year, I was hunting. I only had 2 days to hunt. My grandma died, not to bring it up again. This is a different grandma.
This grandma's really dead.
Yeah, dead. But my grandma died last year, but she died like a day before opening day of rifle. So like,
Buzzkill.
I know, sorry to bring this down. Jared's like, what the hell did I get into?
No, she is.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, she's a buzzkill. So I go up. Not cool, man. No, I'm just kidding. So we go up north for 2 days because I got to be back for the funeral. My dad didn't go that year. And I didn't see any deer the first day. Second day, I see a deer come out. And I, like, know better. And I don't know what I was thinking. I sized it up. I even recorded it. Zoomed in. Was in the zone. I was like, that's a nice sized doe. And it really was. It was like 120 pounds. Good sized deer. I get set up on it, and I didn't check the head at all. And I shoot it. It goes like 10 yards. I go get it. And I go up to it, and it's a button buck. And, like, there are people that will crucify you for that. I don't care. I even labeled the beat in the freezer, button buck burger, button buck backstrap. Like, it is what it is. I shot an antlerless deer. It's a legal deer. I wasn't pumped about it. I was disappointed. If I would have double-checked the head, I wouldn't have shot. They have a more squared head. It's a little bit easier to tell. Honest mistake. Harvested the deer. Didn't do anything technically wrong. Cooked it up or whatever. Rifle season this year, I did not get one shooting opportunity at a deer, except for 3 button bucks.
You're all out of grandmas.
Yeah. Jesus. Grandma had nothing to do with it. My point is that I actually think there's a direct correlation to me making the mistake last year of not double checking the head and shooting a button buck, that this year I didn't actually get an opportunity except for just a parade of button bucks I saw. But that is all I saw this year. And I really think it was like, see, you don't shoot these. I think that's what it
You
was.
got a lot of attempts.
And they were all button. I knew it. How many days in the field did I have? But then during
Like
bow
10 or
season,
12?
bow season, I shot the biggest deer of my life this year, Jared.
Anytime you shoot something with a bow, like in my opinion, it adds at least 10 inches, maybe 20 inches versus a rifle. So like, A, hell yeah for shooting the biggest buck of your life. B, like there's just something more special about bow hunting. So like it's even cooler because it was with a bow and not a rifle.
It was a 10-point, and it went 130. So by your math, it was a 150. But it was yeah.
How great is that?
Yeah, see, it's just like that. But it was just over 130. But a Michigan 10-point, completely uniform, over 130. That's big here, and I'm sure there'll be hunters that be like, I shot 140s, 150s.
Yeah.
In Michigan with a 25-to-1 buck ratio. That was a good deer.
Most whitetail hunters will never shoot a Pope and Young, 120-inch deer in their entire life.
Right.
Statistically.
Right.
So, I mean, I freaking hate nothing more than when people feel the need to caveat of like, oh, it's not the biggest buck in the woods, or oh yeah, it's 130, but it isn't the 150 I was looking for. It's like, if you shot the thing and you were happy about it when you pulled the trigger, be proud of it. Be happy about it. I don't care if it's a fork, if it's a spike, if it's a button buck. If you're pumped, I'm pumped.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I will tell you this. Something wild about it. We had it aged 5.5 years old. Okay? So, and when we got it, he was ruddy as ruddy can be. I mean, he stunk to high heaven, right? Dude, we processed it. I don't know what the hell happened. This was the best tasting whitetail I've ever shot. I shoot doe every year.
Because it was your biggest deer and you shot it with a
No.
Yeah.
No. Blind taste test.
It's placebo.
Blind taste. You tried it.
No, it was.
Was
good.
it not the best deer
It
you've
was
ever
good.
had?
It was really good.
It was so good. It was weird. We've been talking about it, trying to figure out what happened.
The Greenway Outdoors is brought to you by Ram Trucks, built to serve. Bass Pro Shops and Cabela's, your adventure starts here. Savage Arms, Nosler Ammunition, Bosch Shot Shells, Wilderness Athlete, fuel for the rugged, Tracker Boats, fish the finest, Eagle Fishing, designed for the savvy angler, Rufus Teague Barbecues, Snacks, and Spices, Rectech Grills, it's more than a grill, it's a way of life, Sea-Doo, make your own waves, LEM Products, motivating people to hunt, process, and prepare their own food, Quiet Cat, the leader in electronic bikes for hunting, fishing, camping, and exploring. Consistency. That's what you aim for with every practice shot. So when you're out in the field, you get that same consistency every shot. With Carlson's choke tubes, consistency is what you'll get. Our choke tubes are long-lasting, high quality, and made right here in the USA. Carlson's choke tubes, pattern tested, hunter approved. Find out more at choketube.com.
Are you anxious to get going? Knowing that the clock is ticking and time truly is the most precious commodity in the world? Then you, my friend, are in good company.
Do you guys think in a blind taste test that you could tell the difference between, like, if I set a back strap of a moose, an elk, a mule deer, a whitetail, antelope, like, do you think you would do worth a damn at a blind taste test of species of ungulate?
Like identifying the meat?
I think I'd do better than most,
Correct.
but I know what you're driving at. But I think I would do better than most. Mainly because
I agree.
I mean, I have elk, antelope, moose, and both species of whitetail and mule deer in my freezer right now. And I'm telling you, like antelope, I think I could tell because it's like
Yeah.
that meat is so tender and it almost like has a melt in your mouth type sensation, in my opinion. I think I'd get antelope right, but after that, I don't think
I
I'd
get
know the
moose and
difference.
bear.
Yeah,
I think I could.
I think I could too.
I like if you.
Well, now you guys ought to test this because you got.
We
plenty of
have
meat
those
at your
things.
But to put a scale on it, I'm sure you guys have seen this with cheap beer and done. I was at a bachelor party, I don't know, like a year ago, and somebody was getting all cocky that they could tell every type of beer. So I went and grabbed like 6 different beers.
Nice.
You know, light beers. We're talking like PBRs, Bushes, Miller, whatever. I think there was 8 people that did it, and nobody did better than 3 for 6. And most people got like their favorite beer wrong. I mean, it was
Whoa.
it was impressive how horrible people were at it.
You know, you and I, Jared, we're 2 of the only people that have enough meat to actually pull this test off. We have pronghorn, we have moose, we have buffalo, we have whitetail,
Elk.
we have we're out of elk.
No elk.
We got no elk.
I have elk.
No.
Oh, you still have elk?
Yeah.
What are you, a little hoarder?
Yeah.
What?
I'm hard.
No
as
one- no one's
hard.
getting
I
it.
really think it'd be an interesting test because like there's a lot of people out there that are like, oh, mule deer are super sagey. I only turn them into brats and sausage
No.
and this, that, and the other.
No.
People are so
like,
stupid.
People are the
oh,
worst.
Mature
Mucus.
bucks in the rut, you know, they taste terrible. You can't eat that without, you know, this, that, or the other thing. And every time somebody
Incompetence.
says anything like that, I'm like,
I think it would be.
whatever. You either have some really acute taste buds or you're off your rocker.
Yeah, that. I think it would be an insanely hard test to like complete. You can't. No, you're not doing the. Oh, it's got an oaky afterbirth type deal.
Afterbirth? Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, like the wine stuff. Afterbirth for sure isn't in there though. AJ, why don't you talk about that for a second? Because give you a little background, Jared. AJ never hunted a day in his life. Grew up in a household without any hunting. His background is in television and production, but now he's technically been on more hunts than anybody else. And it's funny. Talk about how you started out with trying wild game from people cooking it for us to where you are now, where you're the head chef at the place.
Right. So I mean, like I said, complete novice, obtuse on all fronts. So I would try most venison, and I thought it was terrible. Beyond eating, I'm not eating it. Blah blah blah. And then,
We had bad experiences. He kept getting shit from people that were like making chili where they burn
but they're
the meat.
claiming they know what they're doing. They claim that they are good and they know how to taste things. Couldn't be further from the truth. And then so like, you know, around year 5, we started doing our own thing, and we're like, we're not going to listen to these people anymore, and started processing, cooking, and creating certain dishes our own way.
Like daily.
Yeah. And then I'm like, they're turning out really, really good. And then I came to the conclusion that like everyone has to be just straight idiots. That's claiming that they're good. They don't know what they're doing. I'm not going to pretend to be an expert, but I would say that we've come a long way which is why we can probably say we're confident detecting certain meats, because we've gone through this process.
We've become
of,
obsessed.
Yeah, we've gone through this process of not really doing what normal people do. And if they say they're good at it, chances are they're probably not.
In the last 2 to 3 years, I would say that like our meat prep, like our butchering skills have like gotten exceptionally better. Just like people are like tend to be just under the threshold of having enough respect for the meat to do it properly.
Yep.
Like they're almost there, but they don't quite get
and
it.
it takes time. It's a lot of time consuming activities to make it good, which I think a lot of people skip.
Yeah.
Which is why it doesn't look good.
I think too is like I tend to err on the side of like over prepping. So like some people don't trim all the silver skin, or they don't do this or they don't do that. Whereas I tend to be really adamant about doing those things, and people will be like, oh, well, you lose 5% of the meat that way. It's like, well, if 95% of the meat is fantastic, then I'm okay with that. So I tend to lean that way. I have respect for people that do it the other way. Like, so I got a friend, so we did a bison hunt, shot 2 bison. One was male, one was female, so that could play into it a little bit. But when we were butchering them, we kind of did them as a group. There was huge groups of us. We had a huge table set up. Somebody was shooing away the flies, and we were going to work. It was actually pretty fun. We had music going and talking about girls and whatnot. And we're butchering them, and my buddy's making a pile for his sausage and burger that I'm like looking at it, and AJ looks at me because AJ's still learning. He's like, "What do you think about that?" I was like, "That's not what my pile will look like." I was like, because I would take that out, I would take that out or whatever. And I was talking to him, I don't know, a couple months later, and I was like, "How's your buffalo going?" Because our bison is the greatest meat ever, and people started. We gave some out, and now people are getting greedy, and it's almost gone.
Bit,
yeah, people. It's the only meat. It's the only meat we've ever given out where people came back to ask if we had more of it.
Yeah.
Like people getting weird about it. And I asked him, I was like, "How's yours?" He's like, "Dude, I can't get the family to eat. It's too gamey." And I was like, "What?" Because ours isn't at all. So, and he's cooking it right because he's a chef. So, I don't know. I think over preparation is good, and I think we need to focus more on preparing meat videos because we have gotten really good at it. Because again, we're idiots that were just best friends that wanted to do this, but when we started out, we didn't know what the hell we were doing. So everything is like acquired knowledge from trips and meeting people and stuff like that, you know? So.
And I mean, I 100% agree that like the biggest factor in your meat tasting good is did you care for it properly and in a timely manner? Because like antelope is the like maybe outside of bear the most polarizing meat that I know about. Most people are like, oh, it is terrible. But then there's a fair amount of people that are like, it's the best meat on the planet. And that's where I fall. Like the antelope that I've eaten is my favorite meat of all time ever. But when I shot my antelope, I skinned them out, quartered them out, put them on ice, aged them for a couple days, butchered them myself, ground the meat myself. I didn't go to anybody for anything.
That's the best
and I
way.
think most people shoot antelope when it's 80 degrees out, right?
Right.
And if you don't get that cape off of them and that meat cooled, I bet it does taste like dog shit if you left it in the back of your truck in 80 degrees for 15 hours. So, like, what a shock.
I completely agree with you. I will say this too, having the right equipment to do it is helpful. And we're partnered with LEM, and dude, we have one of the giant. What is that?
It's
like
a mixer.
1.5 horsepower or something like that.
It's huge.
This grinder, we didn't even get it out of the thing yet. We've been using the 0.5 horsepower, and we've done bison, moose, everything ourselves. And their big bite grinders are awesome.
Yeah.
So for those of you who dig
And
the Green Outdoors,
the biggest perk of that, it has a foot pedal, so you can step on it to get it going.
Oh,
that
yeah.
thing is the best thing ever.
because otherwise you're always clicking and clacking and
Yeah.
Spreading.
I actually found like having a meat grinder like kicks ass. I have a commercial vacuum sealer, not one of those
right.
$90 food savers, but a commercial vacuum sealer that like needs oil changes every 25
Yeah.
hours.
Oh, yeah.
That thing is amazing. I have a dehydrator. That thing kicks ass. But like it takes a while to acquire all of those things
Sure.
because they all cost a fair amount of money. But wholeheartedly agree, if you don't have, I mean, shoot, even as simple as like some meat tubs are so awesome to have rather than filling up like 9 metal bowls of meat.
I just
Yeah,
got
yeah,
I
I
got
need to get
2.
those.
No, I just did. I
Okay.
just bought them. When I
Nice.
went with Pete, I bought them.
Nice.
Yep, I got 3
Like they
with
probably
lids.
cost like $40 and something I like never thought was going to be that valuable, but like holy shit, they're amazing.
That's
But
awesome.
like if you don't have those things, it's a royal pain in the ass to do it properly.
LEM actually just came out. You'll dig this too. They just came out with a cordless
I want that
vacuum
thing so
sealer.
bad.
Cordless. So like you don't have to plug it in. You just either batteries or charge it, one or
Yeah.
the other. But that's gonna be
They said it gets something like 60 seals. So like if like my application was hunting woodcock in upper Michigan, you go out on your hunt, you come back, you field dress your birds, stick them in that thing, seal it up, and stick it in a cooler, and it's good to go.
yeah.
Otherwise, they have
Even
to sit there.
That's 60 seals is going to get you through most white-tailed deer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, like if you shoot a 100, a buck that dresses at 150, 160 pounds, like you're not really getting more than what, maybe 70 pounds of meat off
Right.
of a really mature whitetail.
Right.
And if you can seal 60 bags, you're good to go.
I 100% agree. 100% agree. Don't these conversations like make you want to gnaw into a big piece of meat off the grill now?
Yes.
Yeah, I always pumps me up. I'm gonna go thaw out something. One last thing I want to talk about before we let everyone go. You guys also give back quite a bit, and you work really hard at creating access. And you guys just finished an access program. I don't want to start guessing at the numbers. I want to say it was like a crazy number that you added access, and also a crazy amount of miles of new trails for public access. Talk to us about that program.
We have an access and stewardship, I'll call it a branch of onX that we have multiple employees where that is all they're focused on is access and stewardship projects. So we have set aside budget for our grant program for, if you have a land trust, or if you are working to clean up some section of river, or, whatever the project may be, if it falls within the cohort or the realm of opening up access for hunters, or doing stewardship projects that is going to lead to improved habitat, improved degradation of, degraded lands, whether it's trash cleanups, removing fence, whatever. We have a whole pretty stiff budget that we give back to those grant programs to help facilitate those things, as well as do a bunch of internal projects. And so I believe it was the 3-year goal of opening up 150,000 acres of access and forging 150 miles of new trails. And so we are going to meet both of those goals by our overarching 3-year goal for those things. I think by the end of 2023, we reached both of those goals. And it's really, it's because of partners of ours, partners like the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, who they do incredible work at opening up access and acquiring lands. We did a really cool project with Pheasants Forever, a couple of them actually. Last year at Pheasant Fest, there is this grant money in Minnesota that if we were able to reach, an X threshold of dollars that we poured into this grant fund, the state of Minnesota could, they had a budget reserve that if a threshold of dollar amount was raised, they could 40x that dollar amount to improve and acquire new habitat in the state of Minnesota. So like us and our partners at Final Rise were like, all right, we can put forth that money. We hosted a party to raise some more money with buying drinks and such. And it ended up as some multi-million dollars that went into improving habitat and acquiring new lands in Minnesota. And we're currently in the process of a PATH program, which essentially, in short, is improving hundreds of thousands of acres in South Dakota. And so like we're always on the lookout for opportunities, and so often they happen at the the 501c3 level, or with the state agency partnership to really like leverage those benefits that those entities have in order to incite really meaningful projects. Because opening up 25 acres of access through some acquisition in the state of Wisconsin is great. If we're able to put $200,000 down and buy some piece of land that we were able to turn into public ground. But there are way more programs out there than most people realize that help to multiply those funds when it goes back to habitat improvement or opening up access. And so I'm just stoked that I think we opened that branch, if you will, of onX maybe 4 years ago. And I think there are 3 or 4 full-time employees that's all they're focused on, is opening up more access and doing stewardship, boots on the ground, to improve the habitat that is available for us hunters across the nation.
Incredible. That is
very
really
scary.
interesting. If there wasn't a reason to go check out the app, that right there is just something you want to be giving back to, and you need people like this to have funds to be able to do stuff like that. Jared, this conversation was awesome, man. We got to do an actual hunt together.
Let's do it. I would love nothing more. And I mean, you guys got me out of two back-to-back meetings by running this an hour long. So I won all around. Pleasure
Awesome.
hanging out with you boys, and I would love nothing more than to share camp. And I really do hope that you guys put the meat species test.
We're gonna do it. We'll do it. We'll do a
try it.
vlog.
I'll be wildly interested to see how you guys do, and I won't be betting on any of you.
Oh, come on. Come on.
We'll give you some odds.
I think it'll be hard, but you'll definitely be able to tell a difference in the meats, whether you get it right or not.
You're like, you got to cook them all exactly the same. I'm like, okay. But I got black bear in there. Medium rare it
Make
is.
sure you have a back strap cut of each of the however many species.
Yeah.
Throw them on the grill. You know, don't spice and fancy them up too bad.
Salt and pepper just.
Yeah, you know, just like a simple seasoning across the board. And I agree, Ryan. Like, you'll be able to be like, okay, this one's a little bit gainier than that one, but like, I don't have a whole lot of confidence that people will be like, oh yeah, that's that stagey
awesome.
mule deer that I hate to eat.
You know what I think the only problem is with us doing it is I think we have eaten some of all of those things, and every animal kind of has a unique taste to it, I think, as far as like not species, but every animal.
Kyle's pumping his own freaking shoes up.
I know, I'm telling you.
He's talking. He's
I
gonna
know.
go 4 for 4.
I know.
Wait till the ends come.
6 for 6.
yeah.
They're making a joke about when I was a kid and Jeffrey and I were playing horse, like, you know, with the basketball. I like one of the things I would do to cheat would be like I'd shoot and miss and it would hit like the backboard. I'd be like, and then you got to catch it, and then you got to shoot it, and then you got to miss again, and then you got to. It's like, yeah, they're circling up on those bits.
So into adulthood, when he's losing, he goes, and then.
Well, that's how you got to do it. But man, it was great hanging out with you. We appreciate it. We have a new vlog series coming out. For the audience that doesn't know, obviously we have a main TV show on the History Channel. It's on History Streaming. Pretty soon it's going to be available on Roku, Tubi, Carbon TV, everything else as well. You'll be able to stream that. We have a new season coming out this year. In addition to that, we have a weekly video vlog.
Yes.
I shouldn't say video vlog, just vlog. But the reason why we have the vlog is because we want to interact with our audience every single week with like the hunting and fishing adventures that we're doing. We might be putting together a diesel generator for our ice fishing shack. We might be ice fishing overnight. We might be hunting rabbits. We might be doing anything. We just started it in January.
Mm-hmm.
The first episode, we went out and actually tried out the new 400 Legend for the limited whitetail zones. Lord knows I couldn't get a deer, but we did teach you about the ammo, the ballistics, all those sorts of things. So I think that this taste test would be the perfect vlog where I could cook them all up.
Yeah.
We could test them all out, sort them blindfold, do it. And but you'll have to check out the vlog series. It's on Carbon TV as well as our YouTube channel. And obviously we have a weekly video podcast every single week right here as well. The podcast comes out on Mondays. The vlogs come out on Fridays. And then watch for our announcement dates for Season 2 on History Channel. Thanks so much for tuning in. Stay green.